Chapter 448. Many clansmen looked at the leaders of the radical faction with resentful eyes. Didn't you say that the power of the Mangekyo is comparable to that of Garashi-sama? This is obviously a one-sided beating. The leaders of the Uchiha clan felt as if there was a knife on their back, and they secretly complained in their hearts. Why are the ancestors boasting about nothing? Saying that the Mangekyo Sharingan is invincible in the world, bah. Whoever believes that is stupid. I understand your unwillingness to be ostracized, so I can forgive you for the first mistake you made, but there won't be a second time for this kind of thing. All right, I understand your unwillingness to be ostracized, so I can forgive your first mistake, but there won't be a second time. Hearing this, everyone nodded again and again. The myth of the Mangekyo Sharingan has been broken. How could they dare to be stubborn? Fugaku climbed out of the huge pit. Although he was a little embarrassed, he was only grateful to Garashi, taking a beating in exchange for the continuation of the clan, and suppressing the impetuous atmosphere in the clan. It was really worth it. Thank you, Garashi-sama, for your forgiveness. I swear in the name of the Uchiha clan that there will never be a coup d'état in the future. In fact, he wanted to use this opportunity to set the tone so that the radicals wouldn't go crazy one day. And in this case, naturally, no one would object. Garashi nodded slightly and looked at the crowd and said, "Let's disperse. Remember to repair the ground here. Don't let others find out." After saying that, he looked at the bordered soil and said, "Come with me." After Garashi took them away, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Garashi-sama's aura was too strong, although he didn't reprimand them too much. Just the power he unintentionally exuded was enough to make them tremble in fear. Fortunately, Garashi-sama didn't pursue this matter, otherwise, we would be in trouble. By the way, will Garashi-sama become Naruto? Do you still need to ask? Except for that shameless old man. Who else would think that they can be compared with Garashi-sama? Walking to a secluded place, looking at the bordered soil, Garashi asked with a complicated expression, "I heard from Shursui that you want to come back?" Bordered soil didn't dare to look straight into Garashi's eyes. He lowered his head and said in a low voice, "Yes." After saying that, he hurriedly added, "I don't ask for everyone's forgiveness. Even if you want to arrest me and execute me, it's fine. But there's one thing that I hope you can give me the answer to." "What is it?" Bordered soil's nervous voice was mixed with anticipation. "Lin, is she still alive?" Hearing Bordered soil's question, the other three were shocked. They were no stranger to Rin, who indirectly led to the end of the Third Shinobi World War. Shouldn't that girl be dead a long time ago? Under their surprised and Bordered soil's expectant gaze, Garashi slowly nodded. "Yes, Lin is indeed alive in a state of suspended animation." "It's true. It's great that Lin is still alive." Bordered soil cried and laughed. He was happy that Lin was still alive, but also sad for his fate. If he knew that Lin was still alive, he wouldn't have to go down this path. Obito let out a long sigh of relief, and then calmed down. "Senpai, if you have any questions, just ask. I will tell you everything I know." Garashi thought for a moment and said, "Tell me everything you know about the Akatsuki." "I'll start from the beginning," Bordered soil said with some emotion. "In fact, I'm one of the people behind the scenes." Shursui couldn't help but ask, "Didn't you defect from the Akatsuki? You said that Aizen was the core." Fugaku and Itachi had a strange look in their eyes. Why would the mastermind defect? What a shame to the mastermind. Bordered soil looked embarrassed. "There was a problem. If it weren't for Aizen, the Akatsuki would have been under my control." With that, he warned in a dignified tone, "You must be careful of the man named Aizen. He is many times more dangerous than the leader of the Akatsuki." "That man is really dangerous," Shursui emphasized. Bordered soil, senpai deliberately ambushed him, but he couldn't beat him. Bordered soil smiled awkwardly. He seemed to have failed as the mastermind behind the scenes. Garashi nodded and then asked, "What happened in the Third World War? How did you survive? And how did you become the mastermind behind the scenes?" Bordered soil recalled and said, "I really thought I was going to die, but I didn't expect Madara to save me." "Madara? You mean Uchiha Madara?" Fugaku asked. Bordered soil nodded. "He didn't die. He survived the battle with the first Naruto, using the forbidden technique Izanagi. It turned out to be Izanagi. Fugaku was shocked, and then he thought about how to explain to Garashi. Izanagi is the forbidden technique of our Uchiha clan. Without waiting for him to finish, Garashi waved his hand. I know, no need to explain. Bordered Soil, go on. Bordered Soil was not surprised that Garashi knew about Izanagi. In his view, everything was reasonable. Not only that, but Madara also evolved his Mangekyo Sharingan into Rinnegan. Fugaku couldn't help but interrupt again. What did you say? Rinnegan? Itachi asked. If Rinnegan is the evolved form of Mangekyo Sharingan, then is the Rinnegan of the Akatsuki Sharingan Madara's? Yes, but Madara is dead. Bordered Soil continued to expose. But he transplanted his Rinnegan into Nagato decades ago, and he is one of the 3 people who control the Akatsuki today. Nagato? I once fought against him in the Chunin exam. Garashi pretended to be surprised. Senpai, you are right, they are the friends you used to know. Bordered Soil said. Fugaku was still a little puzzled. With Madara's character, would he give his eyes away? It's not a gift. Madara just used it as a vessel to nourish his eyes. Bordered Soil shook his head slightly. If Aizen didn't find the grayer ore for him, Nagato would have been squeezed dry by his eyes. Shursui asked. But why did Madara do this? It's for his resurrection. Bordered Soil said. The Rinnegan can resurrect the dead. Madara gave the Rinnegan to Nagato so that he could resurrect him one day, and I am the executor he chose. The 3 were shocked by this series of news, and Garashi asked, since you decided to come back, isn't Madara's resurrection plan a failure? Bordered Soil showed an awkward but polite smile. Madara seemed to have been cheated by him. But he can't be blamed. The 5 great ninja villages have Senpai, and the Akatsuki has Aizen. No matter which side it is, it's too difficult to complete Madara's mission. Thinking of this, Bordered Soil thought, I'd better buy a few Naruto paper dolls and burn them for him. Chapter 449. Knowing that Madara couldn't be resurrected, they were relieved. Not to mention how powerful Madara is, he awakened the Rinnegan and arranged the means of resurrection decades in advance. You can see how terrible he is. The 3 of them sighed, but they also felt lucky. Fortunately, Madara chose a scum spokesperson. If it was Tashi, Madara's plan might have succeeded long ago. The 3 of them thought so, and then their minds changed. It doesn't seem right. If it was Tashi, Madara would have been eaten until there was nothing left. In this way, Madara chose a scum spokesperson. After a moment of silence, Garashi asked again, how does the Akatsuki control those monsters? Is it possible for us to take control of them? Bordered Soil shook his head. In fact, the Akatsuki can't control those monsters. Garashi was surprised. They can't control them? The only person who can control the monsters is Black Zetsu. Black Zetsu? Isn't that Zetsu? Bordered Soil explained. Zetsu is the combination of Black Zetsu and White Zetsu. White Zetsu is the monster you are talking about, and Black Zetsu is the consciousness of White Zetsu. Even this kind of thing can be done, worthy of the legendary ninja. Garashi exclaimed. What about Black Zetsu? Itachi was excited. As long as we catch him, we can end the demon disaster? Bordered Soil smiled. I killed him. Itachi and Shursui. Fugaku asked. Is the purpose of the demon disaster to force the Akatsuki to war? Black Zetsu is worried that Senpai will grow too fast, so. Bordered Soil suddenly remembered that Black Zetsu secretly caught Senpai behind his back. He said in a low voice. No, he should be worried that I will find out that Rin is not dead. So he forced the Akatsuki to start the war ahead of time. Fugaku was stunned. He couldn't think of the connection between the little girls not dead and the war. Garashi pretended to have a headache and rubbed his eyebrows. What about the action of capturing the Jinchuriki? Don't tell me it's your idea with Black Zetsu? Bordered Soil laughed awkwardly. Haha, senior, you saw through me. Fugaku and the other 2 no longer had the strength to complain. So this was what the mastermind meant. He wanted to meddle in everything, but couldn't do anything. So the mastermind behind the scenes was the shit stirrer? After laughing twice, Bordered Soil added, Black Zetsu and I deceived the Akatsuki, saying that by capturing the 9-tailed beasts and throwing them into the Ghetto Mazo, we can regain control of those monsters. But in fact, we want to revive the Jubi. and make the resurrected Madara the Jubi's Jinchuriki. What? 10 tails? Fugaka felt that he had never been more shocked in his entire life than today. Even an absurd existence like the Jubi had appeared. Bordered Soil said. The first 10-tailed Jinchuriki was Hagoromo Sennin. He was worried that no one would be able to control the 10-tailed Jinchuriki after his death. So he divided the 10-tailed Jinchuriki into 1 to 9. This is 2. Although what Bordered Soil said was true, Fugaku and the others still found it hard to imagine. Garashi said, regardless of whether the 10-tailed Jinchuriki and Hagoromo Sennin are real or not, since the idea of collecting tailed beasts to control monsters was fabricated by you, and you have now betrayed the Akatsuki, does it mean that the Akatsuki should give up the plan of collecting tailed beasts? Well, Bordered Soil thought for a moment and shook his head slightly. I'm not sure. Aizen is said to be a monster that survived from ancient times. If he has seen the 10-tailed Jinchuriki, with his wisdom, it's very likely that he can analyze the possibility of creating the Jubi's Jinchuriki from my attitude and the current situation of the one-tailed Jinchuriki. Ancient humans. Itachi couldn't help but ask. Maybe they slept in some way until now. Bordered Soil guessed. Garashi pondered. Sure enough, we still can't give up the protection of the Jinchuriki. Seeing Garashi frowning, Fugaka said, I don't think there's any need to worry. Although the Akatsuki is powerful, as long as we pay attention to them, they won't be a threat at all. At least, they can't take away Shinakushina's Kyuubi. No, they can do it. Bordered Soil took a deep breath. As long as they use Yunin's Jinjio and Jinjio brothers as substitutes. Jinjio and Jinjio brothers? Didn't they die a long time ago? Fugaka's face changed. Is it Edo Tensei? Yes, it's Edo Tensei. Bordered Soil said with certainty. But 4 years ago they didn't get the Edo Tensei. Shursui suddenly understood. I understand. Danzo must have promised to give them the Edo Tensei after he returned to the village. No, it shouldn't be him, Bordered Soil said in a deep voice. Before he was released, Aizen got the Edo Tensei from Woodleaf. Fugaka looked dignified. In other words, there are traitors in the village, and they have access to the Scroll of Seals. Bordered Soil warned. If the Akatsuki uses the power of the Edo Tensei, the other villages may not have enough defensive power. Patriarch Fugaku, please inform people to check the tombs of Sandame-sama and Nidame-sama. Garashi walked out quickly. We must inform the other villages as soon as possible. Time moved forward a little bit. The Akatsuki held an online meeting. As soon as everyone went online, they found that 2 of the original 10 seats were empty. Yahiko looked around and saw that Aizen was still online. He was relieved, and then hurriedly asked, Uncle, what's going on? Why did I hear that Hoodlum and Zetsu ambushed you in Woodleaf? Aizen nodded. There is indeed such a thing. Fortunately, they underestimated my strength and let me escape. Escape? Sasori had a strange look in his eyes. Even though he had only seen the tip of the iceberg, he was sure that Hoodlum and Junung were not ambushed by Aizen. They were the ones who were forced to run away. It's good that you escaped. Conan was relieved, and then asked in confusion. Are they crazy? Why did they attack Uncle? I guess they want to use Jinjutsu to control me. Aizen guessed. After all, I have a lot of influence in the organization. Before I joined, I had a lot of connections. Jinjutsu control. Yahiko's eyes were strange. It shouldn't be. They also participated in the battle where you defeated Hanzo. They should know that your Jinjutsu is very strong, and it's difficult to control you with Jinjutsu. The key should be the Uchiha boy they brought. He can block Jinjutsu in a certain area. Aizen said. In the case where Jinjutsu is blocked, it's possible for them to control me. Those 2 guys are very suspicious, Nagato said in a deep voice. Unlike your experience of being invited, the 2 of them took the initiative to ask us to join the organization. Chapter 450. Yahiko still remembered Zetsu's words about using the complete form of the Geto Mazo to control monsters. So he hesitated and asked, Then, should we continue to capture tailed beasts? Aizen pondered and said, From the information revealed by Hoodlum and the others when they ambushed me, gathering all 9 tailed beasts seems to cause a qualitative change. After saying that, he asked again, By the way, How many Jinchuriki did we capture this time? Yahiko said. Except for the Gobi, Hachibi and Kyubi, all the other Jinchuriki have been captured. The Kyubi chakra can be replaced by the Golden Horn and Silver Horn brothers. That is to say, only the Gobi and Hachibi are left. Aizen nodded slowly. We are only one step away, and it's too late to stop now. That's right anyway, there's only one step left. Yahiko suddenly realized. Using the Golden Horn and Silver Horn brothers to replace the Kyubi? Hoodlum and the others were prepared to use Golden Horn and Silver Horn as replacements from the beginning. So they didn't mind attacking me when we were capturing the Kyubi's Jinchuriki. Aizen explained. Those two bastards are really scheming, Conan said angrily. Although there are only 2 bijou left, the difficulty of capturing the last 2. Raiga said with a tangled expression. But suddenly he realized something. The 5 great shinobi villages don't know that we have the Edo Tensei. And with Shimizu Azushi's position, they will most likely defend the Kyubi Jinchuriki, and this is our chance. Conan's eyes lit up when he heard this. Yes, as long as we don't consider Shimizu Garashi, capturing the Gobi and Hachibi won't be difficult. However, Aizen shook his head slightly. I'm afraid I'll have to disappoint you. When I escaped, I left a doppelganger in Hoodlum's space. He didn't realize it was a doppelganger, and he didn't dare to attack me because of my strength. But just now, my doppelganger dissipated, and the one who destroyed it was Shimizu Garashi. Hearing this, everyone's expression changed greatly. What? Did he betray Woodleaf? He actually dared to return to Woodleaf, although Hoodlum knew a lot of the organization's secrets, and had betrayed the organization. They weren't worried that Hoodlum would leak the information. After all, Hoodlum's other name is Uchiha Bordered Soil. How could a person who betrayed Woodleaf have the face to go back? How could Woodleaf believe him? Damn it. I still underestimated the thickness of that guy's skin. Conan cursed fiercely. Leah nodded in agreement. Compared to him, even a deserter like me is considered noble. Yahiko's expression changed. Wait. If Hoodlum revealed our details and the fact that we obtained the Edo Tensei to Woodleaf, the people on Woodleaf's side might rush to use the Edo Tensei first. Because Sasori didn't have many living puppets, and the Edo Tensei can only stay in the main world for a few days using ordinary sacrifices. He didn't summon the Edo Tensei army in advance, but kept it aside, intending to use it as a surprise attack at a critical moment. But now it's not possible. If they don't summon the souls now, the enemy may take the initiative. Of course, the premise is that the people of the 5 great shinobi villages don't abstain from summoning the souls of their ancestors. Hearing Yahiko's words, everyone realized the seriousness of the problem. Although the 5 great shinobi villages are rigid, it's very likely that they won't agree to desecrate the souls of their ancestors. But what if? What if those people suddenly become enlightened? Then wouldn't the preparations they made in advance be in vain? They originally needed to rely on the Edo Tensei to reduce the gap between them and the enemy. And if they use it in the hands of the enemy, the gap will only become bigger. Thinking of this, Yahiko hurriedly asked. I asked you to collect the bones before launching the attack. How is the collection going? Don't worry, the rakeage of several generations have been collected. The same goes for Kirin. Seeing that the bones of the Kage and the strongest of the 5 great shinobi villages were collected, Yahiko sighed in relief. Very well, let's end the meeting now. I'll let Nagato summon all of you using summoning jutsu. By the way, Sasori, bring 2 living puppets with you. Sasori nodded calmly. I know. Thank you. Yahiko nodded and then looked at the others. Remember, don't resist. After that, the light in the space quickly dimmed. In an abandoned building in the Rain Country, Conan opened his eyes and asked, with the time limit of the Edo Tensei Jutsu, are we going to launch the final attack directly? Yahiko nodded. We are already in a weak position. There is no time to continue hesitating. Nagato asked thoughtfully. The living puppets you asked Sasori to bring with him are for Hashirama and Uchiha Madara, right? Yahiko said. Although the Edo Tensei Jutsu can be repeatedly summoned, the souls that have returned to the underworld cannot be summoned a second time in a short period of time. Ordinary souls can go back, but I still want to keep the 2 of them. Indeed, The strength of those two may not be worse than Shimizu Garashi. Even if the Edo Tensei can't exert their full strength, the two of them should be almost the same. The only trouble is, Nagato took a deep breath. I don't know if I can suppress them. Yahiko and Konan both looked dignified. They have also studied the Edo Tensei Jutsu, so they naturally know that if the summoned person is too strong, it is possible for the summoner to be counterattacked. Therefore, the person who can use this technique can only be Nagato, who has Rinnegan. If it is you, you can definitely do it. I hope so. In fact, there is still a problem, Nagato said with a dignified tone. If I completely retain their personality and don't control them, they are likely to ascend to heaven with their own strong will. But if I bind them, I won't have the extra energy to summon you when you are in danger. There is no other way. Yahiko sighed. Let's not talk about this. Let's start the summoning. Nagato nodded and directly summoned everyone scattered in the ninja world. The next moment, everyone appeared in the abandoned building. Raiga, who was summoned, was amazed. As expected of the Rinnegan, you can summon us even though we have not signed a contract. Nagato's face was pale, and he didn't speak. Such a long-distance summoning almost drained his chakra. Kakuzu suddenly asked, Can you summon the two traitors? Nagato shook his head slightly. They must not resist. If it is really that simple, then this war will be easy. Raiga laughed. Just summon the strongest of the ninja villages one by one. Yahiko looked around at everyone. Take out the bones you have collected and prepare to summon. Chapter 451. Most of the sacrificial vessels were white Zetsu captured from the battlefield, and the other two were living puppets brought by Sasori. After preparing the sacrifices, bones, and techniques, Nagato was almost ready to rest. Nagato stood in the middle of the giant array and began to print. The sacrificial vessels were gradually covered with dust, and the souls of the dead were summoned from the underworld, and the faces of the vessels turned into the appearance of the dead. The next moment, these undead opened their confused eyes. Aren't I already dead? Where is this? Wait, you are with Leaf's White Fang. Isn't that the second Tsuchikage? The strong people of the villages have been resurrected, and our current state is Edo Tensei? It must be Naidame Naruto who did it. Naidame Naruto in the crowd scolded with a black face. Idiot, didn't you see that I was resurrected? Naidame Mizukage, who subconsciously threw the blame, laughed loudly. Even you, the one who invented the technique, are controlled. It's ridiculous. Hashirama on the side patted Tobarama on the shoulder and laughed. Haha, I have already said that your forbidden technique is not good. Tobarama coldly replied. Shut up. Hashirama immediately felt wronged and stopped talking. Suddenly he was excited. Madara, you are also resurrected. At this moment Madara was confused. Something is wrong. This is not the perfect resurrection I planned. Also, what about the bordered soil and my consciousness? Hearing the voice of Hashirama, Madara snorted. I see you when I open my eyes. This guy is really unlucky. Hearing the conversation between the two, the meeting, which had gradually become lively, was suddenly interrupted. Everyone's bewildered gazes swept over the two of them. No matter what era it is, the names of Hashirama and Uchiha Madara can shock people. At this time, there was a sound of clapping hands. We are the ones who disturbed your sleep. Although I am sorry, can you please be quiet for a while? Looking in the direction of the sound, they noticed that there were a few strange people wearing gaudy trench coats, standing in the distance. Although being stared at by so many powerhouses with cold eyes, Yahiko didn't show any fear at all. To put it simply, we want to borrow your strength to rewrite the order of the shinobi world. The existence of the 5 great ninja villages is the biggest cancer in the world. Hashirama's proudest achievement was said like that, and he couldn't help but feel embarrassed. Ahem, is the ninja village system really that bad? For us ninjas from small countries, it's terrible. Nagato took over the topic. You 5 great shinobi villages clearly occupy the best resources and territories in the shinobi world, but because of greed and selfishness, you launched war again and again, and chose the location of the war to be the territory of our small countries. Countless families have been torn apart and displaced because of you. What we are doing today is nothing more than giving voice to the victims of war. Hashirama's eyes were blank, and he said with some lack of confidence, I didn't see such a picture. That's because you're still alive. Of course, no one dared to make trouble when you were alive. Nagato said with a sarcastic tone. You might as well ask your younger brother what happened after you died. At this time Tobarama spoke. Brother, there's no need to waste your breath on this group of ambitious people. They haven't seen the cruelty of the warring states period, and naturally, they won't understand our efforts. With that, he looked at Nagato with indifferent eyes, trying to use the Kage of each village to start a war, and talking nonsense in front of me. The one who developed the Edo Tensei. Didn't anyone tell you not to mess around with forbidden jutsu? Tobarama quickly made hand seals, and then put his hands together. Edo Tensei, release. However, 1 second, 2 seconds, 5 seconds passed and nothing happened. The atmosphere was quite awkward, as if a crow was flying over everyone's head. Aizen laughed. Although we can't compare to Nidaime Naruto's talent in developing forbidden jutsu, we can still do it with a little improvement. Tobarama's heart kept sinking. These bastards even have the ability to modify his ninjutsu. This is not something an ordinary ambitious person can do. Madara's heart also sank. The current situation was completely different from what he had planned. But even so, he couldn't help but mock. Do you see, Hashirama? The era of shinobi villages you created such a cancer. And the jutsu left by Tobarama will destroy the entire shinobi world. Everything you've done is wrong. Hashirama opened his mouth, but he didn't know what to say. At this time, Raiga suddenly interrupted weakly. With your strength, you may not be able to destroy the shinobi world. Madara, who was slapped in the face in public, turned his head and asked fiercely, What did you say? Are you questioning my strength? Not to mention him, the other Kage and shinobi villages were also very unhappy. Do you know what it means for us to be together? It means the power to change the world. Although they didn't want to be controlled, they were still very confident in their own strength. With more than a dozen Kage here, and the strength of the other famous strong people, it's easy to capture 2 or 3 villages, not to mention monsters like Madara and Hashirama. With such strength, is it difficult to destroy the shinobi world? However, the Akatsuki shook their heads slightly. You have shallow knowledge, I don't blame you. You don't know what kind of monster we are facing. Really, we are just going to use you to grab a few tailed beasts. They were really not optimistic about these people. For the weak, the Edo Tensei's immortal body and infinite chakra can be regarded as strengthening. But for the strong, it's hard to say whether it's strengthening or weakening. But for Hashirama and Madara, it's definitely weakened. In this case, if they face a monster like Shimizu Garashi with a proud attitude, they will be taught a lesson. Hearing the words of the Akatsuki, the Edo Tensei were so angry that they laughed. Our knowledge is shallow. What a joke. Even the warring states period didn't make this old man afraid. What kind of monster are you talking about? Madara was even more unceremonious. Have you seen my real strength? Everyone answered in unison. I haven't seen it, but it's certainly not as good as that man. Madara's eyes twitched wildly, and he had to say that he hadn't felt this kind of anger for a long time. However, he quickly calmed down. You want to provoke me to fight for you with all my strength? Oh, you have a good plan. Everyone's eyes were strange, and they wanted to say that he really misunderstood. But when they saw Madara's face, they were too lazy to explain. If you don't experience the beating of society, you won't know what despair is. Chapter 452. Seeing that they didn't speak, Madara continued to mock them. It's understandable that you would say such stupid things. After all, even these wastes were summoned by you. It can be seen how hungry you are. They were called wastes by name. No matter how much they feared Uchiha Madara, they couldn't bear it. Not to mention, most of them only heard of Uchiha Madara's reputation. Immediately, someone said in a sarcastic tone, What's there to be proud of for a loser? The times will not stand still. You, who once awed an era, may have fallen behind long ago. For these voices, Madara directly burst out with powerful chakra, and suppressed them with momentum alone. Oh, the people in this world are divided into two classes. One class is me and some idiot over there, and the other class is you scum. This substantial momentum made everyone's heart sink. With their strength, although they were not suppressed to the point that they couldn't fight, the spiritual oppression still made them can only exert 90% of their strength at most. Uchiha Madara is as domineering as before. The strong people who have seen Madara's strength were all impressed. Those younger generation strong people also looked dignified. This is the power that once awed the warring states? It's really powerful. Ah, that's all you got? Madara's heart was disdainful, and his eyes swept over them, and then he heard some discordant voices. Is that all you got? Your momentum is far worse than that man's. The smile on Madara's mouth froze, and his eyes looked fiercely in the direction of the voice. In that direction, the reaction of the Akatsuki was mediocre, and even a little disappointed. Madara suppressed his anger and said, "Don't think that you can humiliate me wantonly by improving Tobarama's Edo Tensei." Nagato scolded coldly. "You're too proud. Even my Rinnegan can't fight back in front of that man. What's your Sharingan?" Due to the shock of the Edo Tensei, coupled with Madara's performance just now, everyone realized that the other party actually has the legendary Rinnegan. It turned out to be the eyes of the legendary Sage of the Six Paths. Even the owner of Rinnegan said so. It seems that there are really very powerful people in this era. For their reaction, Madara felt as if he had eaten a fly. This kid got his Rinnegan, and still dared to run in front of him? Especially when he saw the shock in Hashirama's eyes. He wanted to shout, "Those are my eyes!" However, considering the strangeness of today's resurrection, coupled with the absence of bordered soil, and his consciousness, Madara had to endure it. But I'm still so angry. Nagato did have some ideas, so that Madara could play a better role in the battle. Therefore, Nagato continued to flatter. If you were at your peak, you might be able to fight against Shimizu Garashi. Madara was about to attack when he heard a few exclamations from the crowd. Garashi! Shimizu Garashi! These people were the White Fang, the third Reikage, 5 of the 7 swordsmen, and the third Mizukichi. Hearing the third Mizukichi's exclamation, Pipa Shirzong asked strangely, "Third Mizukichi-sama, were you also killed by Shimizu Garashi?" The third Mizukichi's mouth twitched, and he immediately took a deep breath. "Yes, 2 years after you." Madara looked at him with scrutinizing eyes. "You're the kid who followed White Lotus at the 5 Kages tournament? I didn't expect you to be a Mizukichi, but it's nothing to kill a kid like you." Hearing the disdain in Madara's voice, the third Mizukichi once again realized that Madara's betrayal was not without reason. This mouth is too annoying. Moreover, although he is a junior, in terms of age, he should be much older than Uchiha Madara, the bastard who died early. How impudent. Looking at Madara, the third Mizukichi said in a flat tone, "When he killed me, he was only 14 years old, and he did it while surrounded by thousands of Kirin ninjas. Although he was killed by Shimizu Garashi, he didn't have much hatred for Shimizu Garashi in his heart. During the war, it's understandable to do anything from your own standpoint, but correspondingly, you must bear the consequences. Therefore, he didn't think there was anything wrong with Shimizu Garashi's revenge. Compared with Shimizu Garashi, Madara was more annoying. Of course, the premise is that he didn't know that Rin was not dead. After listening to him, the people who were watching the show widened their eyes. 14 years old? That's too exaggerated. What a terrible talent. Killing a Kage is nothing, but if you add the age limit of 14 years old in front of it, it's very shocking, not to mention that he did it while surrounded by enemies. Hashirama exclaimed, "That's amazing, Madara. When we were 14 years old, we were still fighting." "Shut up," Madara scolded. And the experience of fighting Hashirama was definitely the black history of his life. As for Shimizu Garashi, he heard White Zetsu's report, but he was not so surprised. Seeing that Madara didn't seem to be moved, Nagato turned his eyes and looked at Hashirama, who was smirking and said, "Speaking of which, our enemy has a lot to do with you. He is the disciple of your granddaughter. He developed Mokuton on his own. Like you, he suppressed the Kyubi. He was even crowned as the god of ninja at the age of 15. Hashirama's distorted expression was mixed with surprise. Katsuma has such an excellent disciple. Tobarama was also surprised. He developed Mokutan on his own, and at such a young age, he had the same title as my brother. Of course, he knew under what circumstances the title of the god of ninja could be obtained, by defeating the whole world, or by making the whole world gasp in awe. Hashirama rubbed his hands and smiled. It's always a little uneasy to be related to Katsuma. The Shimizu Garashi you mentioned. Is he reliable? It's not so much reliable. It's better to say that he's perfect. Nagato said with emotion. Whether it's character or strength, he's recognized as perfect. He's even better than you and more suitable for the title of the god of ninja. This time, Madara finally couldn't stand it. Better than Hashirama? Do you really know this guy? Do you know how strong he is? How dare you say such a thing? Hashirama touched his head with some embarrassment. I'm actually just SOSO. You shut up. Madara scolded. You're the only one who defeated me. He's stronger than you. What am I? No matter how powerful a person is, when it comes to the people he cares about, he will be blinded. Nagato sighed in his heart, but he said, if you want to prove yourself to Hashirama. I will soon give you this opportunity to fight Shimizu Shushi with all your strength. Madara also understood Nagato's calculation at this time, but he didn't care. He just snorted. How can he compare with me? Chapter 453. Hashirama also heard something wrong at this time, and hurriedly dissuaded him. Madara, don't be fooled. This guy wants to use your power to destroy Wood Leaf. Madara's eyes were calm. Oh, that's right, I was going to destroy Wood Leaf. Hashirama, as I said with Shimizu Garashi, Wood Leaf is not so easy to destroy. Nagato shook his head slightly. We're just going to catch a few tailed beasts. Catch a few tailed beasts? Madara's eyes were dignified. It took so much effort to summon them just to catch the tailed beasts. It seems that Akatsuki should be on the way to complete the Jubi. But what about the bordered soil in his consciousness? What happened during the time before his resurrection? Wood Leaf, in front of the cemetery of martyrs. In addition to Fugaku, there was also Tsunade, who returned to the village because of the outbreak of the demon disaster. Checking the tombs of the first and second Naruto, of course, it can't be done by the Uchiha. Otherwise, if something goes wrong with the tombs, they will have to bear the blame. You mean the tombs of the second grandpa may have been robbed? Tsunade's face was very ugly. It's Garashi-sama who asked us to inform you. With the style of the Akatsuki, it's natural for them to seek the bones of the two Naruto after getting the Edo Tensei. Fugaku said. Using Garashi as a shield, Tsunade's face reluctantly looked better. Then let's do it. Soon, the tombs of the two Naruto were dug up, and everyone moved the coffins out. Tsunade touched one of the coffins sadly, and then her face changed. She could see that some parts of the coffin had less dust than other places, as if it had been opened not long ago. Damn bastard. Tsunade already had the answer in her heart, but she still pushed the coffin open. Sure enough, a large part of the bones lying in the coffin were missing. Damn bastard, don't let me find you. Tsunade shouted angrily and clenched her fist, and suddenly a sound burst out. Compared to Tsunade's anger, everyone else was in a heavy mood. The two Naruto corpses being stolen meant that they might have to face the two Naruto's Edo Tensei. The second Naruto was one thing, but the first Naruto was the same as Garashi, a legendary figure with the title of the God of Ninjas. Could they handle it? The excavation of the tomb attracted many onlookers, including Asuma and the others. This is troublesome. Don't tell me we have to deal with the first generation's Edo Tensei? Although Garashi is very strong, the Edo Tensei is said to be able to revive infinitely. Ignoring the discussion of the crowd, Kakashi walked straight towards an Uchiha behind Fugaku with his head lowered. Bordered Soil, it's you, right? Bordered Soil trembled and slowly raised his head. It's me. Hearing the conversation between the two, the focus of the scene immediately shifted from the original coffin to Bordered Soil and Kakashi. Well, there's also Fugaku, who is suspected of covering up. Seeing everyone looking at him with shock and suspicion, Fugaku hurriedly explained, Bordered Soil was caught by Garashi-sama, and he asked me to take him with me temporarily. Everyone reluctantly accepted this reason. No matter how bold Fugaku is, he wouldn't dare to fake Garashi, right? Kakashi didn't care about Fugaku's answer. He just looked at Bordered Soil with a complicated expression, and then couldn't help but punch him. You bastard, why did you do this? Why did you betray the village? Bordered Soil didn't resist. After being knocked to the ground, he stood up unsteadily. Kakashi grabbed him by the collar and shouted, "Answer me." Bordered Soil didn't wipe the blood from the corner of his mouth. He just stared at Kakashi and said in a hoarse voice, "If you could protect Rin, I wouldn't have become like this." Kakashi's body trembled. "What did you say?" Bordered Soil sneered. "I told you to protect Rin. What did you do? Pierce through her chest with Raikiri." Kakashi was silent. He did owe Rin a lot. Although Rin didn't die, the person who did this wasn't him, but Senpai. Not to mention, although Rin is alive, he wasted 8 years of his life. After Rin wakes up, she might feel that this world is very strange. You didn't protect Rin. I always thought that my biggest mistake was to overestimate your ability. Bordered Soil had a complicated expression. But in fact, my biggest mistake was to underestimate Senpai's ability. If I could have trusted Senpai and taken the initiative to contact and ask, the later development wouldn't have become like this. Kakashi, who was hit by a counterattack, was at a loss. This is still my fault? At this moment, more than a dozen umbu, wearing animal masks, appeared around them. Then the encirclement opened up a gap. 2 old men came out of the gap. Koharu, Mitokado Hamura? Tsunade on the side frowned slightly. She really didn't have a good impression of these 2 Naruto advisors. Although they are fundamentally different from people like Danzo, their standards as Naruto advisors are really poor, stubborn, inflexible, incompetent, and muddle-headed. The most important thing is that their brains are sick. As for the reason, they didn't support such an excellent disciple like her, but ran to support Danzo instead. Isn't that just crazy? The 2 Naruto advisors didn't know that Tsunade was criticizing them, and said with dissatisfaction, "You met such a cruel villain, but you didn't catch him, and you even chatted as if nothing happened. What are you thinking?" Kakashi also wanted to argue for Bordered Soil. Bordered Soil is not that kind of ferocious. He's not ferocious? Koharu interrupted directly, and then asked in a cold voice, "Bordered Soil Uchiha, did you do the Kyuubi rebellion 7 years ago?" Bordered Soil was silent for a moment and said frankly, "Yes, it was me." As his voice fell, the crowd was in an uproar, and everyone's eyes changed. Although some people have said that Bordered Soil was the culprit behind the Kyuubi rebellion, after all, there was no conclusion. But now Bordered Soil Uchiha himself admitted it. Thinking of the fear and loss caused by the Kyuubi rebellion, everyone shouted angrily, "Kill him, kill him! Kill this demon in human skin! I am indeed unforgivable, and I have no face to ask for your forgiveness, but..." Bordered Soil Uchiha looked at Koharu and Kakashi like a knife and sneered, "Are you and that Naruto clean? I told you in advance about the Kyuubi rebellion in exchange for Minato's downfall. You are in a hurry to arrest me, because you are worried that I will tell the truth, right?" Bordered Soil Uchiha's words were like a bomb in the deep sea, blowing up everyone's thoughts. Naruto, Sama and the 2 advisors did such a thing. Because of Danzo's bad reputation, no one denied it immediately, and even the eyes looking at the 2 advisors became strange. Being looked at with such eyes, the 2 advisors Naruto only felt their blood stagnate, and even their voices were trembling. They glared at Bordered Soil Uchiha and accused him. "You villain! How dare you slander us? I even admitted to manipulating the Kyuubi rebellion. Do I need to slander you?" Bordered Soil Uchiha's tone was contemptuous, but he sighed in his heart. "Senpai, this is the only thing I can do for you." Chapter 454. Of course Bordered Soil knew. He only revealed the news to Danzo. As for whether the 2 of them participated or not, he didn't know. But that's not important. The important thing is that these 2 consultants are too much of a hindrance. Even from the standpoint of the enemy, it can be seen that they are a hindrance to Konoha. Senpai is such a kind person, even Danzo can tolerate him, so he definitely won't do anything to them. Bordered Soil thought so, and his eyes gradually became firm. So let me be the bad guy. Mitokado snorted coldly. You're worthy of being a sinner. Even now, you still want to divide with Leaf. Don't use your dirty heart to guess our thoughts, even if Danzo. Koharu paused and continued. Some of his methods may be radical, but there is absolutely no doubt about his love for Woodleaf. Hearing them mention Danzo, Obito's eyes flashed. You're asking for it. Can you guarantee that Danzo has not done anything to harm Woodleaf? Bordered Soil asked. Of course. I can guarantee that Danzo has never done anything to intentionally harm Konoha. Although she trusted Danzo, Koharu was still careful. Unintentional harm didn't count. Bordered Soil understood her meaning, but he didn't care and asked around. Are there any Yamanaka ninjas here? Please use the heart transmission technique to show everyone the memories in the depths of my mind. Seeing that he was so sure that he was even willing to show his memories, the two consultants faintly felt that something was wrong. But if they stopped him now, it would seem that they were afraid. Let me do it, ordinary people can't do this kind of thing. In the crowd, a man with a firm face came out. It's Yamanaka Inoichi-san. Someone around recognized him. As the head of the Yamanaka clan, and an elite jonin who guided Garashi, he can naturally be trusted. Inoichi walked in front of Bordered Soil, and put his right hand on his forehead. The next moment, an image appeared in everyone's mind. An extremely wretched face opened its red lips, and kissed the photo in its hand. At the same time, a disdainful gaze was cast in from outside the window, as if looking at scum and perverts. Then there was no then. The transmission was cut off. Bordered Soil roared in shame and anger. Bastard, it's not this. In the crowd, Red and Mute felt a chill. What a pervert. Asma patted Kakashi's shoulder. It must be hard for you to be in the same group as a pervert. The scene of Lin Fan dying on the spot caused the anger in the hearts of the surrounding people to subside slightly. They were also somewhat doubtful. Was this kind of idiot really the culprit behind the nine-tailed beast's chaos? Could there be a mistake somewhere? The corner of Haiyi's mouth twitched. Then why don't you try to recall what you want me to show? Bordered Soil took a deep breath, and began to recall. The screen was reconnected. Under the night sky, Danzo looked at the masked man in front of him. Controlling the QB? Why should I believe the words of a sneaky rat? Because of my eyes. The masked man's tone was indifferent, and his pupils quickly changed into the shape of a windmill. Mangekyo Sharingan. Danzo's pupils shrank. Do you understand now? I do have the power to control the QB. The masked man said. Why are you telling me this? Also, aren't you worried that I'll call someone to catch you now? I'm not wrong about you. I can see ambition in your eyes. Then you might be wrong. As the voice fell, hundreds of wind blades flew from behind the masked man. However, the masked man seemed to have no physical body, and the wind blades passed through his body. What? Danzo shouted in disbelief. Don't test me. I'm not sent by Namikaze Minato or Shimizu Garashi to test you. The masked man said. Humph. Danzo coldly snorted, and released the summoning, sending the nightmare taper back. Tell me, what do you want? I'm here to help you become Naruto. Danzo calmly asked. How are you going to help me? I'll control the QB to attack with Leaf. You can use this information to change your image. For example, in front of Woodleaf's higher-ups, you can predict that the Uchiha may control the QB, or you can prepare in advance to save people in the chaos to increase your popularity. The masked man said. As for using the QB to frame Namikaze Minato, you should be very familiar with this, so I won't say more. Danzo didn't comment. What's in it for you to help me like this? Don't get me wrong, I just want to destroy with Leaf, and I fully believe in your ability. The masked man laughed. If you become Naruto, I believe that in a few years, you can lead with Leaf to destruction. Danzo's mouth twitched slightly. Then you'll be disappointed again. I'll only bring new life to Wood Leaf. In short, happy cooperation. Humph, happy cooperation. The video was cut off, and the crowd was in a commotion. What? Naruto? Sama actually betrayed Wood Leaf for his own benefit. He still calls him Naruto? He's clearly a thief who stole Naruto's position. Maybe the Naruto Sama in his memory is the enemy's transformation technique, Deliberately acting for us. Don't wash it, you didn't see such a big nightmare taper. Yandame-sama, Naruto was really wronged. Koharu's eyes darkened. Danzo really betrayed Wood Leaf. How did he become like this? Hamura was in a bad mood, and he could already feel the suspicion and rejection in the eyes of the people around him. The two of them supported Danzo, and one of the important reasons was that he was far-sighted and predicted the Uchiha's turmoil in advance. But the result was that Danzo cooperated with the enemy? From the perspective of others, most of them were already suspicious of their role in the Kyuubi's chaos. Thinking of this, Hamura took a deep breath. We didn't know Danzo. But before he could finish his words, Bordered Soil mocked. Now you say you don't know. Where's the courage you gave him before? Enough, Koharu shouted coldly. I will bear the consequences of my own wrongdoings. But it's not your turn to show off here. Oh, how do you plan to bear the consequences? I will voluntarily resign from my position as a consultant, retire to the mountains, and never ask about Wood Leaf again. Hamura sighed. I will also resign from my position as a consultant. Koharu looked back and said anxiously, Hamura, you don't have to do this because of me. Hamura shook his head slightly. This is my own decision. He could see clearly that after today's matter was exposed, they were bound to suffer a lot of criticism. If they quit now, at least they could save some of their reputation. After saying that, he looked at Bordered Soil calmly. As for your matter, we won't interfere, and I believe that Shimizu Garashi will give us a satisfactory answer. Chapter 455. By the time Garashi returned, the crowd had mostly dispersed. However, the impact of today's incident had only just begun to ferment. Naruto, who everyone placed their hopes on, turned out to be Wood Leaf's greatest sin, and Naruto's advisors were also suspected to be in deep trouble. Also Danzo, who even the enemy looked down on, was able to sit in Naruto's position for 7 years. So there must be something wrong with the other higher-ups. Or rather, who else in Wood Leaf's higher-ups were clean? Cemetery of Martyrs. After learning about what happened from others, even Garashi was a little surprised. He did intend to scheme against the 2 Naruto advisors, wanting to use Danzo's influence to remove them. But he hadn't even started yet. The 2 of them were already wiped out by Bordered Soil. Since when did Bordered Soil become so strong? Seeing his senpai looking at him, Bordered Soil thought his senpai was angry and couldn't help but sigh. Senpai, you're too kind. That's why you let that group of trash steal your position. Even if you blame me, I won't regret what I did today. Mizuki nodded in agreement. Garashi was too lenient with those people. That's why they had the chance to stir up trouble. From now on, let him, the man who vowed to become the shadow under the wood leaf, clear the obstacles in the darkness for Garashi. Garashi smiled in his mind, but on the surface, he sighed and shook his head, then looked at Tsunade. Senpai, I might have to use the first and second Hokage-sama's bones for an experiment. Tsunade understood what he meant. This was to test whether the Akatsuki had already started the Edo Tensei. So she just sighed. Since the Edo Tensei is unavoidable, it's better to have it on our side than to let Grandpa and the others be used as a weapon against wood leaf. Of course, the Edo Tensei couldn't be carried out in front of a large group of people. Everyone went to the back of the mountain and found a relatively secluded place. After preparing the bones, offerings, and formations, Garashi began to form hand seals. The formation flickered, as if it was pulling souls from the underworld. However, the light only flickered a few times before completely dimming. Summoning failed, Garashi said with a solemn expression. Sure enough, Akatsuki has resurrected the two of you through Edo Tensei. Tsunade stomped hard, the ground cracked, and the cracks spread quickly like a spider web. Damn Akatsuki, Garashi said in a deep voice. We must convey the information of Edo Tensei to the other shinobi villages as soon as possible. San Crypsis Kazakage Building. Kazakage-sama. According to our investigation, the people of Akatsuki organization may still be in the Rain country. Raza looked up at Marky, who was reporting. Who asked you to investigate their whereabouts? Marky was taken aback. Gaara was captured by them. Don't we need to find out more information to rescue him? Raza's tone was indifferent. We can't let the village's precious combat power be damaged for a single Jinchuriki. Kazakage-sama you? Marky looked at Raza in shock. He knew that although the Kazakage-sama was strict with Gaara, he actually cared about Gaara very much in his heart. Not to mention, he vaguely heard some gossip. The Kazakage-sama worked very late these days, and slept directly in the office when he was tired. But in fact, it was because he didn't dare to go home. At this moment, Pakura came in and reported. Kazakage-sama. There's news from Woodleaf. They hope you can log into the dream world. Log into the dream world? Raza was a little puzzled, but he still reluctantly pulled himself together. I see. Rock Crypsis. Anoki had woken up, but when he woke up, he saw a devastated Rock Crypsis. Compared with other shinobi villages, Rock Crypsis, which was attacked twice in a row, obviously suffered more losses. Such a change made Anoki, who had always refused to admit his old age, hunch his back a little. At this moment, Kitsuchi looked at his father in shock and asked, What? The whole village migrated to Woodleaf? Anoki said calmly, You don't have to repeat it, I'm not deaf. But this is really amazing. Kitsuchi shook his head, his eyes full of disbelief. Alliance is not something that can be done with words. It has to be proven with actual actions. Anoki said, But the dignity of Rock Crypsis? A Jonin hesitated and asked. The dignity of Rock Crypsis has been shattered by the Akatsuki's 2 attacks. Now we have to consider survival. Anoki said firmly. Kitsuchi whispered. It's already to this extent. It will only be more serious than you think. Anoki was about to say something when a Jonin suddenly came in. Suchikage-sama. Woodleaf has important information. Dream World. As soon as Empress Shomiai logged in, she was sent to a certain space by an irresistible force. Surrounded by endless stars, a long table was placed in the middle, and many people were already sitting at the table. For example, Garashi, and the Kage and guards of various villages. In addition to these acquaintances, there were many unfamiliar faces in the space. Most of them were more reserved, but there was a faint excitement in their expressions. What the hell is this? Ao, who came in before her, introduced with a shocked expression. This is a room built by Garashi, Sama through the dream world. It can gather people from all over the world. Garashi was not arrogant and took the initiative to explain. Because the 5 Kage conference was used by the enemy, I focused on solving the problem of cross-regional communication in the dream world. Although others had heard similar words, no matter how many times they heard it, Their hearts were incomparably shocked. Cross-regional communication like this without space restrictions is really amazing. After waiting for a while, almost all the people arrived. Garashi said, "Today, I invited you mainly to share some information with you." With that, Garashi looked at a person in the seat. "Bordered soil, you tell them." "Bordered soil? Uchiha bordered soil." Everyone's expression changed, and they also roughly knew what happened in Woodleaf. A frowned and asked, "Brother Garashi, he is." Garashi shook his head slightly. "Don't be impatient, listen to him first." Abito's expression was neither sad nor happy, as he told Shueisha the information he had told him before. However, they obviously didn't have as much patience as Garashi. When he heard that it was him who proposed to capture Jinchuriki, and even extract the tailed beasts in their bodies, A finally couldn't help it and stood up. However, someone was faster than him. Raza rushed up and punched him, knocking him to the ground. "You bastard, Gara is only 7 years old." Bordered soil didn't resist but silently endured. After being punched more than a dozen times in a row, he calmly said, "It takes 3 days for the Akatsuki to extract a tailed beast. 6 tailed beasts is 18 days. And without me and Black Zetsu, the progress will be slowed down. The Akatsuki can't waste more than 20 days to extract tailed beasts at this critical moment. Your son should still be safe." Chapter 456. Hearing Bordered Soil say that Gara won't die, Raza's hand movements finally stopped. However, he didn't give Bordered Soil a good look. He threw Bordered Soil to the ground and returned to his seat. Bordered Soil didn't think much of it. He stood up as if nothing had happened, returned to his seat, and continued. Although capturing Jinchuriki to summon the Jubi was Madara's plan, the Akatsuki's people are now in a difficult situation, and they have completed 2/3 of the progress. There is no reason for them to give up at this time. Once they summon the Jubi, they can easily defeat us with its power. Everyone only felt that they had nowhere to complain. You ambitious people are messing around, but why don't you clean up the mess? Also, it's really bad luck for Madara to choose you as his executor. Trying to calm down the desire to complain, AI asked, "Is the Jubi really as powerful as you say? Even if it is several times stronger than the Kyubi, with the strength of Garashi-san, you can easily suppress it, right?" The rest of the people nodded in agreement. The Kyubi is so powerful. But isn't he the same as a dog in front of Garashi? In the myths and legends, the sage of the 6 paths saved the world. Since he saved the world, there must be a crisis of destroying the world. And this crisis comes from the Jubi. Bordered Soil emphasized. It can destroy the world. Now you know how powerful it is, right? However, everyone had a calm expression on their faces. destroying the world. They can hear this more than a dozen times a year. Especially Inoki. The disdain in his eyes overflowed. The box of bliss was said to be the artifact of the Sage of the Six Paths, and it had the power to destroy the world. But what was the result? On the day it was unsealed, it was scared away by Shimizu Garashi. So this kind of words can't be taken lightly. How can the world be destroyed so easily? Seeing that everyone didn't believe him at all, Bordered Soil blinked sincerely. The Jubi is really strong, believe me. Everyone looked perfunctory. Got it, got it. At this moment a bell-like voice sounded. Everyone, what he said is true. We are facing the crisis of the world's destruction. Everyone looked in the direction of the voice. The person who spoke was a beautiful woman who looked dignified and holy. You are? I asked. This is Her Excellency the Witch from the Land of Demons. She has the ability of prophecy. Garashi took the initiative to introduce her. Country of Demons. Empress Shomi, I suddenly understood. Were those unfamiliar faces from other small countries? Which? Inoki pondered and said. I've also heard about this. I heard that the Miko of the Land of Demons has the ability of prophecy. Raza asked thoughtfully. Your Excellency, did you foresee something? Mithria nodded worriedly. I saw the terrible scene of everything withering and the world changing. The whole world was falling under the ravages of the Tintails. No one spoke, but their eyes were filled with suspicion. A Miko, who they had never heard of before, suddenly stood up and said that she foretold the end of the world. Even if Tsuchikage and Garashi endorsed her, it was still difficult to believe her. Mithria sighed. She knew that this would be the result. Moreover, this was not the first time such an encounter happened. 8 years ago, at the peace ceremony of the Third World War, she found the 5 Kages at that time, and explained the disaster she predicted to them. However, no one believed her, and they didn't even want to verify it. Sure enough, a powerful and humble person like Garashi Sama is just an exception. At this time Garashi said, the dream world is located in the spiritual dimension. Maybe I can try to project the picture that Your Excellency predicted. It's just that this process may be peeking into the heart, and I need Your Excellency's consent. Peeking into the heart. Mithria's face was slightly red, and then she said generously, I have no problem, Garashi Sama. You don't have to worry. Sorry for the offense, Garashi said, and with a light tap of his finger, several scenes were projected in front of him. On the dry and dead earth, a humanoid monster like a dead tree trampled wantonly, and super large-scale Baijidama was shot from its mouth at will, easily erasing a country from the map. Tens of thousands of ninjas formed a coalition army and worked together, but it was useless. No matter how many ninjas there were, they were not the opponent of that monster. The coalition army was defeated easily. In the end, the whole world was quiet. A giant tree stood on the ground, and all life was silent, hanging on the tree like a cocoon. Looking at this horrible scene, Kitsuchi asked in a hoarse voice, This is our future? The leaders of the small countries were also frightened. They originally had the idea that if the sky falls, there will be tall people to hold it up, and sit and watch the 5 great ninja villages and the Akatsuki fight each other. But judging from the scenes of the prophecy, the Jubi was completely indiscriminate. The 5 great ninja villages could at least resist a little, but they were wiped out without even making a sound. The demon disaster is not over yet, and the end of the world is coming? What should we do? What the hell should we do? Looking at their panicked appearance, Garashi chuckled. The prophecy is a good excuse. In fact, even Mithria herself didn't know that the scenes of her prophecy were made by Garashi through Morio. After all, the Miko and Morio were originally 2 sides of the same coin. As for the content of the prophecy, Garashi slightly modified the plot he saw in his previous life and showed it to her. Anyway, the prophecy should be vague. If she could see the complete picture, it would be wrong. It is because of such a terrible scene that I found Garashi Sama and asked him to convey this prophecy to everyone. Mithria bit her red lips and said seriously, In the face of such a world-destroying disaster, we must work together. So that's how it is. Everyone suddenly understood and solved the doubts in their hearts. They also felt strange before. How could these people from small countries be invited by Garashi? At this time, Wu suddenly said, Garashi-sama, can you divide the area around Woodleaf City for the Kusanagi village? This kind of request should be made to the daimyo of the Land of Fire. But Wu completely ignored the existence of the daimyo, and the rest of the people didn't find it strange. During the war, the authority of the daimyo is almost infinitely reduced. Therefore, it has always been the 5 Kages convention that determines the structure of the ninja world, not the 5 Great Convention. Garashi pretended to be surprised and asked, Wu, what are you doing? Wu sighed. Just dealing with the demon disaster has already made the Kusanagi village anxious, not to mention the Jubi. If we want to survive in this violent era, the Kusanagi village can only pray for protection. But I also know that it is difficult for the Woodleaf to spare extra energy to take care of the Kusanagi village. Even if Garashi agrees, other people in the Woodleaf City won't agree. And the way to make the protection reasonable is to become part of the Woodleaf City. Wu stared at Garashi. So, I want to take the Kusanagi village to join the Woodleaf City. Chapter 457. Everyone was shocked. Wu actually wants to merge Kusanagi into Woodleaf. If Garashi agrees, this will be the first case of a country dying in 20 years. And they asked for it on their own initiative. Will Garashi-sama agree? Many people looked at him nervously, but before Garashi could speak, another voice came from the side of Hokage. Garashi-sama, Hokage also requests to merge into Woodleaf. Everyone felt their heads buzzing. Another ninja village, and it's Hokage, one of the stronger ninja villages. Has the situation become so bad? What shocked them even more was that Garashi didn't directly agree, but frowned slightly in thought. This discovery made them wake up instantly. Yes, their village is a treasure in their eyes, but in the eyes of the other side, it may be a trouble and a burden. Didn't you see that Garashi-sama was reluctant? Thinking of this, they all shouted one by one. Garashi-sama, Takajin also requests to join. Frost Country requests to join. Their power and status comes from the village. If the village is gone, they will have nothing. So of course, they want to ensure the continuation of the village. Of course, they also have their own thoughts. First, they ask Woodleaf for protection. And after the disaster, they will find an excuse to be independent. The other 4 ninja villages had complicated eyes. Of course, they can't cry and beg to join Woodleaf like these small ninja villages. After all, the 5 ninja villages have been holding grudges for a long time. Joining together is the best they can do. Join Woodleaf? They didn't even think about this kind of thing. It's just that if these small ninja villages are merged into Woodleaf, will Woodleaf and the other 4 ninja villages be the only 2 ninja villages? Unexpectedly, Shushi did not answer. Instead, he comforted them. Don't be afraid, everyone. The scene that Her Excellency the Witch prophesied is only one of the many possibilities in the future. The future is not set in stone. As long as everyone works together, the future can be rewritten. I once stopped a calamity that Her Excellency, which had predicted. Maitreya nodded vigorously and said gratefully, it was all thanks to Lord Garashi. Otherwise, the ninja world will face another great crisis. Everyone sighed with emotion when they heard this. As expected of Lord Garashi, they had never heard him mention such achievements before. He was too humble. That's right, the premise of destroying the world is that Akatsuki can summon the Jubi. AI said forcefully, but we have already seen through Akatsuki's conspiracy. With the strength of the whole village, we will never let Akatsuki take away the Jinchuriki. Empress Shomiai also nodded. With Garashi there, I don't believe that the Akatsuki can take the Kyubi Jinchuriki from Woodleaf. Everyone was overjoyed as they listened, as if the crisis had been averted. Yes, no matter how strong Akatsuki is, he can't be the opponent of the entire ninja world. The closest they came to success was when we didn't know about it, and we were transferred away from the 5 Kages. Now that we know their purpose and are prepared, it's impossible for them to lose. However, Garashi poured a basin of cold water on them. No, they can do it. If they continue to hold this attitude of contempt, that kind of future will become a reality. What? Empress Shomi, I couldn't believe it. Don't tell me that even you, Garashi, don't have the confidence to keep the Kyubi Jinchuriki? Let me say it. Bordered Soil said in a deep voice. Kyubi can be replaced by the Jinjio and Jinjio brothers. They have eaten the Kyubi's flesh and blood, and they have the Kyubi chakra in their bodies. Haven't those two been dead for many years? AI frowned. Beside him, Tsukasa's pupils suddenly shrank. Edo Tensei? Bordered Soil nodded. 4 years ago, Akatsuki got the Edo Tensei from a trader of wood leaf. Garashi added. The tombs of first Hokage and second Hokage were dug up. I tested it before I came. And I couldn't use the Edo Tensei to resurrect the two Naruto, which means that they have been summoned by Akatsuki. Hearing that first Hokage Naruto was resurrected, many people swallowed subconsciously. Although they haven't seen first Hokage Naruto fight, they know how strong Garashi is. Possessing Mokuton, beating the Kyubi, and being crowned as the god of ninja. There is no way for them not to associate Garashi with such similar experience. At this time, Bordered Soil added, Uchiha Madara's bones were originally in my hands. But in order to gain their trust, I took the initiative to hand over the bones. That is to say, in addition to first Hokage Naruto, we may also have to face Uchiha Madara. At this moment, everyone wanted to step on Bordered Soil's disgusting face with their clogs. Can't this bastard do something humane? Originally, their biggest reliance was Garashi, but now, Akatsuki suddenly has 2 more people on the same level as Garashi. How can they fight this? Bordered Soil continued. In addition to the 2 Naruto, many famous Jonin tombs were also dug up. Don't stare, you are the same. AI slapped the table and stood up. Tell me clearly, what do you mean we are the same? You don't think that Akatsuki is only targeting wood leaf, do you? Bordered Soil sighed. If I'm not wrong, the ancestors of each village should have been resurrected. Hearing this, everyone couldn't help but suck in a cold breath. Although there was no air conditioning in the dream world for them to breathe, they still had their mouths wide open. Everyone felt powerless. In addition to Senju Hashirama and Uchiha Madara, they have to face all the strong people since the founding of the village. What kind of hell difficulty is this? Are you kidding? We have to fight the elders of the village. I heard that the body resurrected through the Edo Tensei has an immortal body and unlimited chakra. How can we fight this? In this oppressive atmosphere, someone said in a low voice, since the Jubi can only be summoned by gathering the power of 9-tailed beasts, shouldn't the safest way be to kill 1-tailed beast? As the voice fell, the noise around them became quiet. In fact, many people thought of this, but they didn't dare to say it out loud because of the attitude of the 2 villages. The Hachibi's Jinchuriki is Reikich's younger brother, and the Gobi's Jinchuriki is Tsuchiki's right-hand man. Killing them, the 2 Kages will never agree. Sure enough, AI stared at the person who made this proposal. What did you say? The person who was stared at by AI braced himself and said, for the overall situation, some sacrifices. AI picked up the table and threw it at him. Screw the overall situation, I don't care about this. It's not wise to drink poison to quench thirst. Garashi said in a deep voice. At least for now, the initiative is still in our hands, and once the Jinchuriki is killed, the time and place of the Jubi's resurrection is uncertain, which is equivalent to giving up the initiative. What if the Jubi is resurrected in front of the Akatsuki? Chapter 458. After Garashi spoke, those voices quickly died down. Indeed, killing the Jinchuriki only pushed back the time of doomsday slightly, and from the result, it boosted the Akatsuki's arrogance. Bordered Soil's eyes moved, and he had an idea. Let Senpai freeze a Jinchuriki, throw it into his space, and then blind him or dig out his eyes, and give them to Senpai for safekeeping. Without the key to open the space, the Akatsuki's plan to capture the bijou will never succeed. However, he knew that others would not believe him. If he said it out loud, they would think that he was deliberately deceiving them. Of course, there was one more thing. He knew that Senpai would not agree with him. Seeing everyone's worried look, AI smiled and said, "What's there to be afraid of? The soul summoned by Edo Tensei can only stay in the main world for a while. And after the soul returns to the underworld, it can't be summoned again for a short time. So, now we have the initiative, the Akatsuki should be anxious. Indeed, as long as we hold on for a few days it will be fine, Raza said in a deep voice. But the Akatsuki must be aware of this. And in the next few days, we will face the most ferocious attack from the enemy. Everyone was shocked. For the enemy with an immortal body, the most ferocious attack is undoubtedly a suicide attack. Those ninjas resurrected through Edo Tensei are powerful. Coupled with a suicide attack, it is really difficult to deal with them. With the power of the Akatsuki now, a single ninja village can't be their opponent. We must unite. Inoki looked around at everyone and emphasized, not the kind of alliance that helps each other, but the kind that gathers the power of all ninja villages in one place and integrates all the resources. Many people nodded seriously. Anyone with a discerning eye can see that an alliance is the trend. But the question was, where was this one place that they had gathered at? Although he knew the answer in his heart, Raza still pretended to be puzzled and asked, where is the appropriate place to gather? Inoki knocked on the table. From the map, it should be with Leaf that occupies the center of the ninja world. Without waiting for him to finish speaking, Wu-Wei's mocking voice came from the side. Sachikage-sama, you don't seem to be sincere, do you? For this traitor who once betrayed Rock Crypsis, Inoki naturally didn't have any good feelings. How am I not sincere? Wu-Wei shook his finger and said, everyone is seeking protection from Woodleaf. Our price is to merge with Woodleaf. Why do you think you can do it just by shouting slogans? You should know that Akatsuki's next target is Yunnan and Rock Crypsis. Even people like us who were caught in the crossfire know to merge. But you people who are the main targets of Akatsuki's attack are not doing anything? Inoki's face was gloomy. The migration of the entire village to Woodleaf was a decision he had made before he joined the society. For this reason, he had also strongly suppressed the dissenting voices in the village. However, Kusagakure and Nebula Shinobi were the first to raise the price, which was very unbearable. Inoki took a deep breath and said loudly, this is not a request, but for the overall situation. If Han and the Hachibi Jinchuriki are taken away, it will be a disaster for the entire human race. No matter how much you say, it can't change the essence of asking Woodleaf for help. Wu-Wei shook his head. Do you think that with such an empty slogan, you can make Woodleaf agree to support us? After all, there are only a few people who can see the overall situation like us. Most people can only see the hatred between the villages. In this case, a forced union will only make the accumulated contradictions between the villages erupt. So, we can't force the people below to understand the overall situation. It should be us who should agree with the overall situation. And the overall situation we should understand is to make everyone a family. Inoki frowned. Are all the kids nowadays so difficult to deal with? She actually used this kind of sophistry to refute his tried and tested moral high ground. Hearing this, the small ninja villages that were shouting to merge before started to shout. I think what Wu-Wei said makes sense. Why should some people be special? If we become a family, we can help each other and understand each other. They are also worried that the merger will be questioned by the people in the village. After all, not everyone can have their vision. But if Rock Crypsis, and even the other 4 ninja villages are involved, it will be different. The people in the village will only think that they worked hard to get the same treatment as the other 4 ninja villages. Listening to them fanning the flames here, the other 3 ninja villages also frowned. Although they are close to Garashi, they absolutely don't want to lose the independence of the village. Just when the scene was out of control, Garashi shook his head slightly. There is no need to talk about merging into Woodleaf. A family made up of strangers will only make people feel uncomfortable. After setting this tone, Garashi said, however, what Sachikage-sama and Wu-Wei said is not unreasonable. We must unite and pay attention to regulating the gap between the villages and consider everyone's feelings. So, my idea is to form a ninja alliance that includes the entire ninja world. Ninja alliance? Inoki frowned slightly. What's the difference between this and what they said before? The difference is that before Woodleaf was the leader, so all the villages were integrated into Woodleaf, and became a real family. Garashi paused and continued to explain. The Ninja Alliance model is to maintain the independence of the villages. All the villages are equal, and there is only one alliance government to regulate the relationship, just like neighbors and the village council. Everyone was faintly moved, only Reikage was confused. Then we can't fight in the future. I mean, in case there is a conflict between the villages, can we still start a war? Of course not. If there is a conflict, we can solve it. Why start a war? Garashi shook his head and said, the original intention of the Ninja Alliance is to achieve peace, to achieve real peace. Peace. Hearing this strange and distant word, everyone was in a trance. Is it really possible to achieve peace? The first Naruto ended the warring states and created the era of Ninja Village, which was also considered a symbol of the era of peace. Unfortunately, peace was just a flash in the pan, and after the death of the first Naruto, war came back in a more ferocious manner. However, Wu Wei was not one of those who had doubts. He never doubted that Garashi could achieve peace. Thinking of that night 12 years ago, he was so excited that he couldn't control himself. The dreamer can only find his way under the moonlight, and his punishment is to be the first to see the dawn. Is this the dawn of dawn? Chapter 459. If peace is only a dispensable expectation for the 4 great ninja villages, then for other small ninja villages, it is a fantasy that they really want but can't touch. Therefore, the leader of Takajin asked nervously, Garashi-sama, can the formation of the Ninja Alliance really bring peace? It must be. Garashi looked around at the crowd. Our world is sick for a long time. There have been constant wars and ceasefires. It's like a vicious circle. And history is repeating itself in this vicious circle. The birth of the Akatsuki is the revenge of this world. If we don't make changes and defeat the Akatsuki, maybe there will be other organizations like Amatsukami and Demon. A's eyebrows twitched. He remembered Shushi once told him about the Hollow. He thought to himself, is the purpose of forming the alliance to guard against that organization? At the meeting, Garashi also said, no one has ever stipulated that there must be enemies to progress. And it's these battles that consume resources and hinder the development of the world. If the ninja world becomes a whole, the world will usher in a real leap, and it's not impossible to fly into the stars. Compared to the boundless universe, the territories and resources we are fighting for now are as insignificant and laughable as ants on the ground fighting for a few grains of rice. So, I hope that everyone can believe me this time, and use this war as an opportunity to officially form the Ninja Alliance. After a moment of silence, Kusanagi, Hakujin and Takajin took the lead in shouting, we agreed to join. The other small ninja villages were excited by the scene described by Garashi, but when they suddenly heard their voices, they quickly woke up. We also agree. We will follow Garashi-sama forever. Not only them, but even Raza and Empress Shomiai were shocked. When they were still focused on the interests of the village and the country, Garashi had already looked at the whole world and looked at the stars. Compared to him, their breadth of mind and tolerance was not just one level lower. Taking a deep breath, the two of them came to a decision. Kirin of San Crypsis agrees to join. Seeing that everyone was excited, he had no choice but to dispel the discordant thoughts in his heart. Or rather, he had greater ambitions. There's no need to snatch people from the same world. If you want to snatch, go snatch aliens. Well, then I hereby solemnly announce the official establishment of the Ninja Alliance, Garashi said excitedly. When the war is over, we will hold a formal ceremony. Everyone cheered, and the way they looked at each other became much more pleasing to the eye. In the future, everyone will be companions who support each other. At this moment, someone suddenly said, since it's an alliance, there has to be a leader, right? Everyone was stunned for a moment before they spoke one after another. Do you even need to think about it? It's Lord Garashi, of course. No matter what you think, I only acknowledge Lord Garashi as my leader. Not to mention the leaders of the small villages. Even the guards and advisors of the other 4 Kages were not surprised by this result, because even they themselves didn't think that their boss could convince others. And Garashi, in terms of strength, is the strongest in the ninja world. In terms of character, he is flawless. In terms of interpersonal relationships, he has friends all over the world, and people who have received his favor are all over the world. Such a person as the leader is naturally popular. Under everyone's expectant eyes, Garashi said without hesitation. Well, let me be the leader. Although they were surprised by Garashi's decisiveness, no one doubted that he was greedy for power. How could a person who could give up the position of Naruto for 7 years care about power? Then there is only one reason why he agreed so decisively. That is, he knows that the current situation is difficult. In today's world, who else can rule the world but him? Looking at Garashi's figure being looked up by everyone, Mizuki and others who came in as Woodleaf's guards were all excited. Kurenai and Shizen proudly raised their heads. This is their man. Asuma rubbed his chin. Woodleaf Naruto, the leader of the ninja world. This is a bit too big. Can I still catch up with Garashi? Why don't I lie flat and let Garashi take me flying? Kakashi and Guy's eyes lit up. As expected of Senpai, he is so powerful. Mizuki was thinking silently. Should my position be promoted from the shadow under the wood to the darkness of the ninja world? Calming down, Empress Shomiai said. There is a difficulty in forming an alliance. That is the journey. Inoki nodded. The migration of the whole village is very time-consuming. The villages that are a little closer to Woodleaf are okay. But the villages that are the furthest away from Woodleaf may take a month to get there. And the Akatsuki will not give us so much time. Everyone subconsciously looked at Garashi. Since he has become the leader of the alliance, he naturally has to bear the corresponding responsibility. And Garashi didn't let them down, he said with confidence. This is not difficult. The space of the bordered soil can transport almost 10,000 people at a time. And with the cooperation of my flying thunder god, the entire ninja world can be transferred to Woodleaf in half a day at most. Everyone nodded again and again. As expected of the leader, he came up with a solution so quickly. However, there were still discordant voices in the crowd. No, I can't believe this kind of trash who betrayed the village. There is no way to feel at ease putting our fate in the hands of such a despicable traitor. Some people even shouted angrily. This bastard controlled the fourth Mizukage and committed an unforgivable crime in Kirin. He should be executed. Yes, he said before that the demonic wave was caused by him and the guy named Black Zetsu. Since Black Zetsu is dead, the crime should be borne by him alone. Does he not have to bear the previous sins after waking up? Kill him, kill him. Bordered Soil was silent. He didn't refute. And there was no way to refute. People like him, no matter how many times he died, he couldn't atone for his sins. His only hope is to capture the Sanbai and save Rin before dying. Seeing this, Kakashi wanted to stand up and speak, but Mizuki held him down and warned him. Garashi will take care of it. Garashi was silent for a moment. Bordered Soil's crimes are indeed unforgivable. I won't stop you from taking revenge on him, but I hope you can restrain yourself until the end of the war. Now the situation is difficult. No power can be easily given up. Hearing Garashi's reply, the voices stopped, but they still looked at Bordered Soil with distrust. Garashi-sama, can such a person really be trusted? Knowing that he will die, will he stand on our side sincerely? Garashi's voice was sincere. I believe that I didn't misjudge him. I guarantee it in my name. Rather than believing in Bordered Soil, it was better to believe in Simba's persistence. As long as Rin was still in his hands, Bordered Soil's position would never be a problem. Bordered Soil didn't know how Garashi saw him in his heart. Hearing his senior's words, his heart was filled with gratitude and guilt, and he secretly said in his heart, Senior, I won't let you down a second time. Hearing Garashi's guarantee in his name, everyone sighed, and the voices of the crusade against Bordered Soil also subsided. Since Garashi-sama said so, let's let him go first. As expected of Garashi-sama, his charisma can even tame such a ferocious villain. Chapter 460. After temporarily solving the problem of Bordered Soil, Garashi said, Next, I'll have to trouble you to go back and explain to the people in your village that the migration will start tonight. Tonight? The leader hesitated. Isn't it too rushed? I'm not sure if I can convince them in such a short time. It's a bit rushed. But the enemy won't slow down just because we don't have enough time. Tonight is the deadline. Garashi pondered. However, I can give you the authority to broadcast the prophecy of Miko-sama. With these pictures, they should be easier to accept. You can let them see those pictures? The leader said with joy. Great, those stupid cough people will be scared. As long as they feel afraid, they won't jump out to make trouble. AI waved his hand. You can also tell them that this is a joint decision of all the villages in the world. The leader suddenly realized. Yes, I'm now representing the Ninja Alliance. Let's see who dares to make trouble. Don't worry about the housing. I will use Mokutan to build enough wooden houses for everyone to live in temporarily, Garashi said in a deep voice. In short, please speed up. The meeting ended, and they exited the dream world. Rock Crypsis. Anoki was in a trance. The Ninja Alliance? The future is getting more and more unpredictable. Kitsuchi nodded and said with emotion. The Warring States era, the Ninja Village era, the Alliance era. We are all adapting to this era. Only he is creating an era. Yunin, AI pondered and asked. Do you think it's possible for me to run for the second leader? Dotai was a little surprised. The war is not over yet, and you're already thinking about the future. It seems that Reikich-sama is very confident in Ching. Leader. AI waved his hand confidently. The first Naruto and Uchiha Madara are very powerful, but this is not their era. Wood Leaf. Sartobi clan. Asma opened his eyes and whispered. Should I be an advisor or an assistant of the alliance in the future? It's so complicated. Sandame came in from outside. Do you know where Garashi is? Asma looked up and asked, What's wrong? Sandame shook his head slightly. The situation is tense now. We need to elect a new Naruto as soon as possible. We have to discuss this with Garashi, Asma said with a strange look in his eyes. I think it would be better to postpone the matter of succeeding Naruto for a few days. Maybe we can announce it together with Garashi, as the leader of the shinobi world. Hearing this, Sandame-sama was dumbfounded. Leader of the shinobi world? What is this? Asma raised his chin proudly. Just now, the leaders of all the villages in the shinobi world passed the proposal to establish the Shinobi World Alliance, with Garashi as the leader. The third generation was flabbergasted. This world was changing too quickly. Late at night. In an abandoned building in the Rain Country, the Edo Tensei resurrected by Nagato during the day were divided into two groups. One group was led by Uchiha Madara, and the other group only had Hashirama and Tobirama. At this moment, Madara asked with a gloomy face, Why did that bastard Hashirama only bring one person, and I have to bring so many people? Are you looking down on me? Everyone in the Akatsuki was speechless. What's there to argue about? After all, they are excellent resources who are willing to fight without erasing their consciousness. Nagato patiently explained. We want to capture the Gobi's Jinchuriki and the Hachibi's Jinchuriki, and the Rain Country is adjacent to the Earth Country. With your strength, it won't take long for you to arrive. Therefore, the Lightning Country, which is more than 10 times farther away, can only be handed over to Tobirama with the Flying Thunder God Jutsu. But what does this have to do with only 2 people? Haha, 2 people consume less chakra. Madara gritted his teeth. The more people the Flying Thunder God Jutsu transfers, the more chakra it consumes. But he is now an Edo Tensei. If chakra isn't enough, who would deceive? Do you want others to say it so clearly? Tobirama sneered. In their view, you and Big Brother are only a dozen kages apart. What did you say? Madara looked at him fiercely. Tobirama shrugged calmly. Put away your tricks, we are all dead now. Who are you scaring? I even hope you can beat me, so that I won't be used by these bastards. You, Hashirama hurriedly stood up to be a peacemaker. Don't say 2 words, we are all dead. There is no need to quarrel again. Madara snorted. Hashirama, do you think so too? Hashirama scratched his head. What do you mean? Madara snorted. It's him who said that there are more than a dozen kages between you and me. No. Hashirama waved his hand again and again. At most, there are 4 or 5 differences. Madara's eyes widened. Hashirama, you. Well, don't quarrel anymore. Nagato said coldly. If you quarrel again, I will erase your consciousness. If I take over, I won't hold back. Tobirama frowned slightly and said nothing. These bastards allowed them to retain their consciousness on the grounds of less killing. Therefore he couldn't resist. Seeing that they finally stopped quarreling, Nagato said, Let's go, and end it all before dawn. Tobirama disappeared with Hashirama, and Madara led the others to attack with all his strength. When they left, Konan said in a strange tone, I didn't expect the legendary Hashirama and Madara to be like a fool and a child. They are all legends of the ninja world, but Garashi is much more reliable than them. If there is a choice, I would rather exchange the 2 of them for Garashi as a teammate. Yahiko sighed. Everyone nodded deeply. After seeing the real person today, there was always a feeling of disillusionment. The distance between the Hidden Rain village and the Rock Crypsis village was not far. An hour later, Madara and the others were close to the Rock Crypsis. In the crowd, Genjutsu couldn't help but mock his old opponent. Mummy, are you touched to see so many of us go to the Rock Crypsis? Wu, who was bandaged, looked at him coldly. Are you so happy to see Rock Crypsis have bad luck? Who can guarantee that this is not the end of Kirin tomorrow? Haha, I'm too lazy to worry about them. Genjutsu smiled freely. I've been worried about Kirin all my life. I should be more relaxed when I die. If they can't protect Kirin, it's their own fault. What does it have to do with me? Is it my illusion? Why do I feel that this guy is comforting the second Tsuchikage? The Raikage muttered in his heart, then shook his head and looked ahead fiercely. Inoki, that bastard ambushed me. Today I will settle it with him. Rock Crypsis, you want me to bring so many people? Madara secretly thought. I will throw a meteorite and solve it as quickly as possible. Wait, this is? Chapter 461. Madara was thinking about how to beat Hashirama in the race, when he suddenly looked up at Rock Crypsis. In his perception, the huge village of Rock Crypsis seems to have only 20 or 30,000 people. This scale is completely different from the status of Rock Crypsis as one of the 5 major villages. Is it possible that the people of Rock Crypsis died in the war? Madara thought maliciously, and then his face changed. In his perception, the 20 or 30,000 people were decreasing at a rate of a few hundred. There seems to be a change in the rock village, Madara whispered and turned into a streamer of light and rushed up. Change. Everyone was surprised, but except for a few people who had a deep hatred for Rock Crypsis, the others were still running at a normal speed. At this moment in the Rock Crypsis village, I won't go. I want to live and die with Rock Crypsis. I've been in Rock Village all my life. Why should I leave with just a few words? For these stubborn people, Bordered Soil did not say a word and directly sucked them into the Kamui dimension. Seeing this, the people who had gathered to protest scattered and fled. Run! This wood-leaf bastard wants to kill us. Stop him! Where are the ninjas of Rock Crypsis? A bunch of idiots. Bordered Soil cursed in his heart. Suddenly, he felt a familiar gaze and subconsciously looked up into the distance. In the night sky, Madara, dressed in armor, was looking at him with a surprised and uncertain look. Uchiha Bordered Soil. Madara's pupils suddenly shrank, and he almost called out the name of Bordered Soil. How can he be here? Did he betray me? Madara calmly analyzed. No, his feelings for the little girl named Rin are not fake. There is no reason for him to betray me. Is he undercover now? Well, maybe I should pretend not to know him. Madara. Bordered Soil whispered, then looked at the third Raikage and shouted. Please tell Yahiko that Nagato's eyes were transplanted by Madara. He asked me to join the Akatsuki in order to control Nagato at the critical moment and use the Rinnegan to resurrect him perfectly. The Raikage and others heard such a big news as soon as they came, and they couldn't help but stare at Madara. This guy had even planned for his own resurrection after death. That was too sinister. Madara almost spurted out blood. When he was resurrected, he hit his Rinnegan, and appeared in the form of Sharingan for himself to complete the follow-up mission. However, he did not expect that the bordered soil bastard would betray him so decisively and directly reveal his secret. "How dare you betray me? Bordered soil, you know the price of betraying me," Madara said angrily, and the red Sharingan in his eyes turned into the form of Ripple Rinnegan. Then he summoned the double-faced Susanoo, and his main body and Susanoo formed hand seals at the same time. Tengai Earthquake Star. The villagers of Rock Crypsis, who were fleeing to avoid the bordered soil, couldn't help but stop and look at Madara, standing on the mountainside in the distance. He is Uchiha Madara? That kind of materialized chakra is so powerful that it makes my heart palpitate. Wait, isn't the person beside him the Reikich? There are many people following behind. Are you kidding me? It turned out to be Wudame and the Mizukich, and other Kages from other villages. Woodleaf didn't lie to us. The enemy is really coming. Regret and fear gnawed their hearts like a viper. If they knew this would happen, they would have moved. The last straw that crushed this fear was a cry of despair. What is that in the sky? Hearing this voice, everyone looked up subconsciously. Then, they saw a huge meteorite breaking through the clouds and pressing down on Rock Crypsis. Are you kidding? Meteorite. He's summoning a meteorite. Oh, it's a dream. It must be a dream. You can't fool me. Not to mention them. Even the Reikich and the Mizukich, who came later, couldn't help but open their mouths. Can a ninja really do this kind of thing? Impossible. This must be the power of God. Madara looked down at the panicked villagers below. A bunch of waste. However, to his surprise, bordered soil looked calm and didn't seem to feel afraid. Did he grow so much? Bordered soil didn't panic and he shouted, "Senpai, save me." Madara was stunned. Is this your confidence? Before Madara could laugh, the sharp-eyed people found a small figure next to the meteorite. Under the moonlight, the figure rushed toward the meteorite, raised his right foot, and kicked violently. Then, in everyone's incredible eyes, the meteorite moved and accelerated toward the position where Madara and the others were. The meteorite was kicked away. Everyone felt that it was ridiculous. It's like an ant kicking over a mountain. The meteorite is so huge that it's impossible to escape from its falling range in a short time. The Mizukage and others didn't intend to escape. Anyway, they are Edo Tensei. However, when the meteorite hit their faces, they were shocked. This kind of meteorite, even if they try their best, they may not be able to stop the meteorite. But the other party kicked the meteorite away with one foot. In this shocking thought, the meteorite finally fell on the ground. Boom! As if thunder exploded in their ears. Everyone was deaf for a while. And then there was a terrible vibration and a noisy wave. The convex mountain range directly turned into a concave basin. The canyon on the ground continued to crack, spreading like a spider web. And the people in the center of the village were blown hundreds of meters away. The vibration lasted for a few minutes before it gradually subsided. The Mizukage and others, who were crushed into pieces of paper, squeezed out from the gap under the meteorite and looked at the mountain under their feet. Whether it's Madara or the ninja who kicked the meteorite, their strength level is far from what they can compare. It's like the gap between a man and a god. Even Madara's eyebrows jumped wildly. Is this a ninja? Which ninja kicks the meteorite with his feet? At this time, the Rock Crypsis people who survived the disaster were shouting wildly, "Garashi-sama! Garashi-sama!" They shouted as if it was a matter of course, without the slightest hesitation. After all, it's not the first time they were saved, and they are used to it. He's the Shimizu Garashi that Nagato said? The Shimizu Garashi who is stronger than Hashirama? Madara said coldly, "Not bad, I recognize you." However, Garashi didn't pay attention to him at all. He turned to bordered soil and said, "Don't divide them. Let them squeeze together. This time we will take all the rest of them away." Bordered soil hesitated. It will take at least a minute and a half to take them all away. And that's without other people's interference. Garashi looked back at the enemies and said calmly, "Don't worry. I won't let anyone disturb you." Chapter 462. Seeing that the other side ignored him, Madara snorted. If you want to protect those people, let's see if you have the strength. Madara symbolically made a hand seal. Great fire annihilation. In his mind, the other side is a taijutsu-type ninja. It's not easy to block such a large-scale ninjutsu. Garashi clapped his hands. Water release, water wall. Madara's mouth twitched. Why is the other side's action familiar? It's like fighting against Hashirama. The flames surged like a tidal wave and dyed the entire night sky red. In the frightened eyes of the villagers, the waterfall across thousands of meters fell down and stopped the sea of fire. Looking at this shocking scene, the ninjas on both sides took a deep breath. Are these two guys human? A B-class ninjutsu made them look like an S-class ninjutsu. This kind of super large-scale ninjutsu can drain my chakra, but that junior is not tired at all. How much chakra does he have? Isn't the point. To mobilize this kind of chakra doesn't need any hand seals? Everyone was shocked, and a thought came to their mind. Wait, isn't he a taijutsu ninja? Yes, why does a taijutsu ninja have such a strong ninjutsu? Who told you that he's a taijutsu ninja? The Raikage said. This guy is a real genius, and he has a talent beyond human beings. Not only his taijutsu, but his medical ninjutsu, genjutsu, seal, and senjutsu are almost the top level in the ninja world. Even in terms of ninjutsu, he developed his own ice release that can freeze the sea. As for the wood release that the little devil who controlled us said, I didn't see it before I died. Everyone was shocked and couldn't help but shout. How can he be proficient in all aspects of ninjutsu? And when you died, he was only 13 or 14 years old, right? The Raikage sighed. That's why I said that he's a genius beyond the limits of human beings. As if to confirm his words, behind the water curtain, the overwhelming vines and branches wrapped around them. Although the momentum was great, they were not ordinary people. They either used ninjutsu to block or ran around to escape. All kinds of dazzling ninjutsu bloomed in the night sky. Among them, the most eye-catching was naturally the laser-like dust escape. In one direction, Wu opened his arms and pushed forward stiffly. Be careful, I'm going to use dust escape again. Naturally, he could tell that the other party was helping rock Crypsis, but his hands were no longer listening to him. Dust escape. Primordial stripping technique. Another pillar of light bloomed from his hand, directly destroying the tree world in front of him with an unstoppable force. Furthermore, the beam of light continued to shoot backward, plowing a long and narrow trench in the ground. Seeing this, everyone sighed with emotion. As expected of the blood geniuses, they destroyed the wood so easily. Although I don't want to be used by those rats. I don't want to lose to that bastard Wu. Since I can't change anything, I might as well fight on my own. Don't let us old fellows be underestimated. They are all strong people of various eras. Although they think that they are not as good as Madara and the other party, they also have their own pride in their hearts. Naturally, they are not willing to let all the limelight be taken away by them. In short, these people were inexplicably ignited. Look at my steam explosion, bang. Hell stab for books. Susanoo, Yasake no Magatama. Under their joint attack, the tree world that covered half of rock Crypsis was destroyed. However, before they could be proud, those vines and branches came back again. Even with a more ferocious posture than before, they rushed toward the crowd. They had to meet them again. Attack, destroy, and rebirth almost 2 or 3 seconds a cycle. After repeating 3 times, everyone's eyes twitched wildly. How much chakra does that guy named Shimizu Garashi have? Why is it endless? Wood release can absorb chakra. As long as he can support himself, he can use it as many times as he wants. What a monster! Fortunately, we are all Edo Tensei now, so we don't have to worry about chakra. At this time Nagato said, don't worry about him. Go and catch the Gobi's Jinchuriki. If you can't catch them, use those ordinary people to threaten them to hand over their Jinchuriki. The crowd shrugged and jumped toward the edge of the tree world. However, as soon as they rushed to the edge, they felt a chill. This chill was restrained and could only be felt when they were close. It turned out that they didn't know when a transparent and extremely thick hemispherical ice layer covered this place. It's too cold. If we are still alive, if we accidentally touch this ice layer, our bodies will be necrotic, right? This guy's ice release and Kieran's ice release are two completely different concepts. However, that kid is really arrogant. Fighting with us, he still has the strength to lay out such a large ice shield. With that, a group of people began to try to destroy the ice shield under the attack of wood release. However, this ice shield is like 1,000-years-old ice, and its hardness is amazing. Normal attacks are unable to break the ice shield. It is because Nagata was unable to control it for a few seconds and used the upgraded version of dust release boundary stripping technique. Under the attack of the upgraded dust release, the ice shield instantly shatters, and the scattered ice crystals scatter in the night sky, looking mysterious and beautiful. Would release ice release, what a troublesome fellow. If not for Wu's dust release, we might really need to spend some time to break the ice shield. There are also quite a number of people who are puzzled. Where is that kid called Shimizu Garashi hiding? Although his attacks are unceasing, but after he uses the water formation wall, his body seems to have disappeared. The moment the ice shield shatters, a voice from the outside world comes in. Immortal technique, ice release celestial phenomenon. The night sky, which had been filled with stars, had been replaced by a cold winter with howling northern winds. After everyone breaks the ice shield, what they see is the scene of the cold wind blowing and the blizzard wreaking havoc. Looking at the power of controlling the celestial phenomenon, everyone feels their throat dry up. Are you joking? That fellow can even do this kind of thing. Controlling the celestial phenomenon, changing the heaven and earth. This is already the power of God. Just when everyone is shocked by the scene in front of them, Third Reikage warns loudly, "Be careful, this is the ultimate sealing technique using ice release as the carrier." He had once used this technique to instantly seal the Yanbi. Everyone's eyes tremble. In terms of strength, none of them here are afraid of the Yanbi, but in terms of body size and resistance, they are only ordinary humans, and they are not comparable to a tailed beast. Even the Yanbi was instantly sealed. There is no need to talk about them. The most crucial point is that the essence of this Dao technique is the Edo Tensei's nemesis sealing technique. Chapter 463. Thinking of this, everyone hurriedly used ninjutsu to resist. However, such a large-scale sealing technique was naturally not something that could be easily blocked. The blizzard seemed to have sped up by 100 times. The snow particles turned into hailstones, and under the wind, they were like cannonballs. The earth walls and water walls they hurriedly built were instantly penetrated. And then the blizzard accelerated 100 times, quickly covered them, and froze them. Not only their bodies, but everyone felt that their souls were frozen, their thinking became sluggish, and their eyelids gradually closed. At this last moment, because he didn't find the enemy's body, Madara, who had been restraining himself, finally broke out. Shinra Tensei, although he didn't charge, and he couldn't fully exert the strength of the Rinnegan in the state of Edo Tensei, Shinra Tensei still destroyed most of the rock crypsis in an instant. However, destroying the rock crypsis was just a side effect. The real meaning of this Shinra Tensei was to kill all his teammates. The people of the Edo Tensei finally woke up from the state of frozen, thinking through the refreshed state of death. Thinking back, they felt a lingering fear. Even for dead people like them, the experience of having their minds frozen is definitely not good. We finally escaped. What a terrible monster. Wait, aren't we here to catch people? Shouldn't we be the ones taking the initiative? Thinking back to what they heard before, a group of Edo Tensei was a little skeptical. Before, they heard that Madara was going to buy 1.5 minutes for the Uchiha kid. And they were still thinking about how to do it. How could the other party hold on for 1.5 minutes under the joint attack of so many strong people? And the result? The other party took the initiative to attack, suppressing them so that they couldn't fight back in this 1.5 minutes. This was 2F** King ridiculous. Who fights for time like this? For a while, they all felt a little distressed for the younger generation of this era. It's really hard to be in the same era as this monster. The people of Rock Crypsis were also scared, whether they were ninjas or ordinary people. Seeing that more than half of the village was destroyed by Madara's attack, Their hearts were full of fear. Too strong. That Uchiha Madara is worthy of being a legendary ninja. If it weren't for Garashi, he could have destroyed Rock Crypsis with just one technique. It's a pity that a strong man like you can't fight in your best state. Madara raised 2 fingers, and the skeleton giant was quickly filled with flesh and blood. The next moment, a warrior giant with wings on his back and a body larger than a mountain appeared in front of everyone. Look, this is the complete form of Susanoo. Seeing this, the experts who had experienced the Warring States period all had solemn expressions. Madara's complete form appeared. This is something that only appears in the battle against Senju Hashirama. But just as they were explaining the power of Susanoo's complete form to the others, the voice of Rock Crypsis also came. It's actually a warrior giant form. 4 years ago, the person who also used this form lasted more than a minute against Lord Garashi. This time, it was their turn to be dumbfounded. In this era, there was a strong man who developed Susanoo to the complete form. And listening to their tone, that man seemed to have been beaten by Shimizu Garashi. Just as they were shocked, opposite them, a huge Buddha statue with a height of hundreds of feet rose from the ground. Looking at this familiar scene, Madara's mouth twitched wildly. Did this guy completely copy Hashirama's ability? He had even learned the 1,000 true hands. However, this kind of battle can save me the process of familiarization, Madara thought. Although the complete form of Susanoo is huge, it's not at the same level as the wooden Buddha statue. Moreover, his Susanoo can't collide with Hashirama. Now that there is no Kyuubi, of course, he won't fight with him. Therefore, Madara directly vibrated his wings and flew into the air, surrounding the Buddha statue with Yasaka's Magatama. Chakra's Magatama shot toward the Buddha statue like a storm, and in an instant, a terrible storm of energy bloomed on the surface of the Buddha statue. Shushi, on the other hand, did not care. He controlled the Buddha statue's 1,000 arms to attack indiscriminately in all directions. Each of his punches caused a sonic boom in the air and ripples in space. When these ripples overlapped, even space became unstable. A terrifying energy storm wreaked havoc around the two of them. The aftermath of the battle between the two spread out a little, and the distant mountains were instantly annihilated, and the ground was a huge meteorite crater. In just a few seconds, the entire Rock Crypsis village, which had been in ruins, collapsed more than 10 meters, and even many places were pierced through the ground, and the flowing magma gushed out from it. Seeing this terrible scene, the shock in everyone's heart has reached the point of no return. 2 monsters. These 2 guys are definitely not human. After the shock, the people who gradually recovered began to chase the ordinary people, who were hiding in the distance. After noticing their movements, Garashi's offensive stagnated, and dozens of wooden clone jutsu went to stop them. Seeing this, Madara's face sank. Fighting with me, you dare to be distracted to protect others? In anger, Madara also divided into dozens of clones, and the clones were wrapped in Susanoo, surrounding the Buddha statue and attacking. However, Garashi completely ignored the existence of Madara. His Mokuton can absorb chakra. As long as it is not completely destroyed, it can be recovered in a short time. On the other hand, as long as the opponent is hit by him once, he will be destroyed. Madara naturally understood this truth, and he was depressed. Damn, this guy is really as difficult to deal with as that bastard Hashirama. Although he has Rinnegan, Rinnegan is not very useful for this kind of battle. With the size of the Buddha statue, ordinary gravity and repulsion will not play much role. As for absorbing ninjutsu, the opponent's Mokuton is a physical attack, and it is not very useful. What is really useful is his Rinnegan's exclusive dojutsu, Tomb of Reincarnation, Border Prison. But it can't be used in the state of Edo Tensei. Damn it, I'm not his opponent in this state. Madara recognized this reality. It seems that I can only entangle him first. What? At this moment, Garashi's figure suddenly appeared in front of him, and before he could react, Garashi's hard fists fell like raindrops. The absolute defense of Susanoo, which Madara was proud of, was no different from paper under the heavy punch of the opponent, layer by layer. Then the fist fell directly on his body. With just one punch, he was beaten into a state of resurrection, and he was held in the hand of the opponent. Chapter 464. Seeing Madara being caught like a dead dog, the battlefield suddenly became quiet. That's Uchiha Madara, the legendary ninja. His name and Senju Hashirama shown in two different eras. Moreover, Madara just destroyed most of the rock crypsis with one blow, which also proved his strength. But such a powerful ninja was easily defeated by Shimizu Garashi. Even if it's just the body of the Edo Tensei, it's shocking enough. Genjutsu shook his head with emotion. It's terrible. Even a monster like Uchiha Madara failed. Inoki was shocked, and then he was happy. He used to be annoyed that he lost to Shimizu Garashi, but now he saw that Madara, who humiliated him in Wusama, was also caught by Garashi, and he was very happy. Madara's face was gloomy. He could accept being defeated, but it was the first time for him to be held in such a humiliating position. At least, Hashirama will not humiliate him. Bastard, let me go. Suddenly Madara's familiar voice came. Madara, what's wrong with you? Madara was struck by lightning, and his eyes were gloomy. Such a shameful picture was seen by Hashirama. It's not over yet, someone's annoying voice came. Oh big brother, don't you think he's like a puppy pinched by the back of the neck? Because he was dead, Hashirama was not worried about Madara. Hearing Tobirama's description, he burst into laughter. Haha, you're really. Looking at Madara's murderous eyes, Hashirama closed his mouth, and then looked at Garashi and said, Haha, you're Kazuna's disciple? You're really good. Tobirama said, Big brother, you just met for the first time. How can you be sure that Garashi is good? Do you think he did what you always wanted to do? Seeing Tobirama's gesture, Madara went crazy. Bastard, I'm going to kill you. Seeing that Madara was about to get angry, Hashirama hurried to smooth things over. No, I just think. By the way, he's as handsome as I am. He must be very good. This time, Tobirama and Madara were silent. Although Hashirama's appearance is not bad, Tobirama and Madara's eyes are too heavy. Negative temperament. Hashirama, have some shame. Why did I? Garashi interrupted their flirting, and asked, Lord Naruto, did you go to Yunin before? But there shouldn't be anyone over there. Hashirama laughed heartily. Haha, we thought Yunin was haunted. I spent some time there. Tobirama looked around and sneered. The person who controls us should be worried that you will seal them all. So he hurriedly called us over to put out the fire. Or, he wants me to be prepared to escape with the flying thunder god. Madara calmed down a little, but suddenly he realized that his eyes were high, and he had a bad feeling in his heart. What do you want to do? Garashi completely ignored Madara's roar, and even lifted him high. Nagato, I know you can hear me. Let them and the two Naruto stop. Let's fight fair and square. Don't involve those ordinary people in this dispute. As a response, I can put Madara back. Inoki's heart tightened, and he was about to speak, but he was silent again. Cloud Village and Rock Village were the first to move. If the Akatsuki were willing to put down their pride, they could definitely start a kill to save race with Shushi. As a person who was saved by Garashi, he couldn't say that Garashi shouldn't let Uchiha Madara go. Perhaps, the only thing I can do is to believe in him, and believe that he can defeat the two legends together. At this moment Nagato, who was still in the country of rain, was silent. In fact, he already knew what bordered soil told him through other people's ears. At first, he felt fear and had a feeling that his life was being manipulated. In his mind, there was never any memory of Uchiha Madara and the transplanted eyes. But now, seeing the picture of Madara being lifted high, Nagato's fear gradually dissipated. He even thought that Uchiha Madara was just like this. No matter how much he calculated, he has failed now. This era belongs to us. Nagato's mood calmed down, and he controlled his body and said, Well, I promise you that's it for today. After all, he was not the kind of person who was evil. He only attacked ordinary people in exchange for Jinchuriki, and he didn't want to kill them. Since Garashi proposed not to seal Uchiha Madara, he took advantage of the situation. Hearing the answer, The Rock Crypsis villagers who hadn't had time to move into the space were relieved, and then cheered loudly. Garashi-sama! Garashi-sama! Seeing so many Rock Crypsis villagers cheering for Garashi, Hashirama's eyes widened. Amazing! Wood Leaf's people can get so many cheers in Rock Crypsis. Tobirama was also shocked. The villagers of the enemy village worshipped him from the heart. This was something that even his elder brother couldn't do. After getting a positive answer, Garashi didn't hesitate, and directly threw Uchiha Madara out. Madara adjusted his body in midair and landed steadily, and he was about to explode. Bastard, I'm going to kill! However, he just raised his hand, and his body froze. Nagato's indifferent voice came from Madara's mouth. I said that's it for today. Madara was even more annoyed. Madara was just a pawn he picked, and he dared to talk to him like this. And Bordered Soil, that traitor, dared to betray him. I must get my revenge. Madara continued to blacken. Nagato didn't care about him, but looked at Garashi. I lost to you again. Worthy of being my enemy and friend. Both sides were surprised. Friend. Garashi sighed. If it weren't for Bordered Soil telling me, I wouldn't have thought that you, who looked forward to peace in the Third Ninja World War, would become war criminals who provoked war. War criminals. Nagato shook his head slightly, and didn't intend to explain. It doesn't make sense to say this now. Let victory decide who is right and who is wrong. After that, he let Tobirama take them away with Flying Thunder God Jutsu. Seeing the enemy leave, the villagers who hadn't had time to transfer were relieved. Then, looking at the tragedy after Rock Crypsis, they felt sad. My home is gone. Rock Crypsis is destroyed, and nothing is left. Inoki was also very sad. But thinking of the discussion during the day, he was relieved. It's just enough to completely cut off the past and start again. But before he spoke, Garashi stood up and said, There's no time to be sad. War doesn't wait for people. If you don't want sadness to become regret, cheer up and take revenge on Akatsuki. The crowd clenched their fists and shouted, Garashi, Sama is right, we have to cheer up. Let Akatsuki witness our anger. Seeing everyone cheering up again, Inoki was relieved at first, but then he was at a loss. Wait, am I completely ignored as Itsuchikich? You're tuning in to the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.